potentially lighter fare here. We have continued to cover some really interesting comments made by President Biden in that 60 Minutes interview. In particular, he was asked whether he is actually going to run for president again in 2024, and he did not give a direct answer. Let's take a listen to that.
Sir, are you committed to running again, or are there certain conditions that have to be right?
Look, if I were to say to you, I'm running again, all of a sudden a whole range of things come into play that I have requirements I have to change and move and do.
In terms of election laws?
In terms of election laws. And it's much too early to make that kind of decision. I'm a great respecter of fate. And so what I'm doing is I'm doing my job. I'm going to do that job. And within the time frame that makes sense after this next election cycle here, going into next year, make a judgment of what to do.
So he dodges the question there. I mean,
he's blaming election law.
Yeah,
but Trump, announced for re-election the day after he won the presidency.
Well, Trump doesn't give a shit about election law or any other law.
Which has caused problems for him.
Right, which is kind of an issue for him at the moment. But it is true that not to get into the nitty-gritty of election law, but let me go ahead and lay it out for you. You know how these candidates will form exploratory committees? Well, if you do that, you're allowed to do everything up to actually saying, I am running for president. That is like a, legally significant act, and then you can no longer have the exploratory committee. You actually have to file.
Right.
So that's kind of what he's alluding to here. Now, one way to read it is he's just being, trying to avoid getting himself into legal trouble. The other way to read it is that he's trying to give himself an out. Now, you guys know, because I've made the case here before, I think Biden is going to run. I think this man has wanted to be president his entire life. There's no way, now that he's got the brass ring. Is it brass ring or gold ring? Brass ring?
I don't know.
Anyway, now that he's in the White House.
Brass. But that doesn't sound right because brass isn't as valuable as
right.
gold, so
anyway, whatever. He's got the ring. And I can't imagine him just being like, no, I'm going to give it up. I'm going to walk away. So that continues to be my view. However, I talked to Brianna Joy Gray on Bad Faith about this. And the case she and others would make is, okay, then why is he saying stuff like this? Why doesn't he just be more definitive? Why is it that, his some of the Democrats that are relatively senior in House leadership said Carolyn Maloney, when she was running in the primary, was like, it's my understanding he's not running again. Why is it that, Jerry Nadler wouldn't affirm his support? Why is it that you have these Democrats who seem to feel it's kind of safe to deny him their support, where you probably wouldn't have that situation if he really was running again? So again, I don't really buy that case, but that is the case that is being made, and that's sort of the evidence, if you believe that view, that either I think usually the sort of thought here isn't that he would step aside, but that because he's a weak president with low approval ratings and not at his best in his older years, that he would be pushed aside by the more powerful powers that be, in the same way that, Obama pulled the plug on Pete Buttigieg's presidential run, and so that there'd be some sort of machinations behind the scene that would force him out and give him some sort of deal and put a Pete or whoever else in.
You never know with Biden. Is he in charge or not? Some days he's lucid. He seems fine. The other days he makes a comment about Taiwan, and then his quote-unquote handlers at the White House are like, actually, no, that's not U.S. policy.
Right.
And you're like, well, hold on a second. Who's in charge here?
Right.
You think Trump would ever tolerate him saying something and his White House saying that's not what he meant? Never. It would never happen. Same thing with the.
They always would just say the tweet speaks for itself,
but
right?
It's true though, right? With Biden, right? They should be like, yeah, his statement speaks for it. He's the president of the United States. He makes policy. They're like, no, that's not what he meant. Even Obama would never tolerate that either. So with Biden, you never seem to know what exactly is going on here.
Yeah.
I think he's in charge when he actually wants to be and happens to be lucid enough for the day. Some days he seems like, I've talked with friends, by the way, recently. They cover him extensively at the White House. And what they say with Biden is really interesting. They're saying he's his own self for about 5 minutes. He puts on his aviators and he thinks he's 35 years old again, and he's out there shaking hands, but he's got 5 minutes in him. He's just old. He's one of those things where he could keep it up. He can be Scranton Joe for very, very limited periods of time. Then he has to go back to the lectern, open his notes, and just be Joe.
Lately, I feel like he has had more pep in his step. He's been more consistently lucid. This was a lengthy, intensive interview. And yeah, I don't know if he meant to say the thing about Taiwan or what the hell happened there.
I think
he said it multiple times. So he
yeah.
seems to be really committed to this line of discussion and committed to the policy. But he did seem lucid throughout the interview. So I feel like lately, because he's gotten more momentum, I don't know, that seems to have restored him in some sort of fundamental way. But putting all of that aside and all the sort of conjecture and speculation about just how there he is, I just can't imagine that this man who has been in Washington all of these years, this is everything he knows. He's there doing the thing that he has always dreamed and always wanted to do, that he's going to step aside. I don't buy it. And then the other thing that I don't buy is who is going to be, his approval ratings are low, but they're better than Kamala's.
Right.
They're better probably than Pete's. I mean, there is a lot of power that comes with being the incumbent president. It is much easier to win the presidency if you are already the president than if you are an outside challenger trying to make the case fresh and to come in. So I just think ultimately, yes, there are some, I would not doubt that just like during the Democratic primary, when there were all these behind the scenes discussions about like, maybe we can get Beto, maybe we can get Pete, maybe we can get Kamala. At the end of the day, they all realized that the only person who was left standing to, take out Bernie was Biden. And I kind of think it's the same thing. They may be wish casting, donors might be talking, Pete might be moving to Michigan and maneuvering. But at the end of the day, they're all going to realize, like, we really got no other option but sticking with this dude. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.